Most people don't get a letter like this from their dad. For the last 22 years, that letter and his words and his voice have continued to guide me.
Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast, where Keith and Doug give no-nonsense advice to level up your life. So buckle up and listen closely to Up Your Average.
Welcome. I am glad you all made it to our legacy letter opportunity today, and we're going to record this so that our friends that aren't able to make it during the working day will be able to join this via the recording. And I'm excited about this because over the years, trying to communicate my love to my family has happened via a kind of a big, thick journal that I've written a lot of love notes to my kids, and that's a lot. Most people don't have the tenacity to do that. But Blake Brewer is a great man. He has worked with thousands of families, helping them put together this just invaluable gift called the Legacy Letter. And we're just thrilled to offer this opportunity to you all today. So please join us in welcoming Blake to the platform. And I'm going to step back and go anonymous while he presents the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, Keith, Doug, Gimbal, man, I'm really excited to be here. And I've known you guys for a couple years. I've known Doug even longer. And man, I love what y'all are about. And man, just everything, how you guys think is how I think. And so it really is a privilege and an honor to be here. And so, yeah, I'm Blake Brewer. I'm the founder of Legacy Letter. We are on a mission to help 1 million people write at least one well-written, meaningful, lasting legacy letter. And so those of you that are on the call today, those of you that are watching this recording, if we had the opportunity or the time, we could go around the horn and everybody could share about their family situation and what stage you're in, and all of our families would look different. But there is one thing that we all have in common, and that is that we love our families. And so that's what today is about. Today we're going to do something really beautiful, really meaningful, that is really going to outlive you. And this will be one of the most important and even cherished things that you do for your family. And so to kick us off, I do have a short little video for us. And so let me share that, and then we will get going here.
Blake took something terrible.
I didn't see it
that happened in his life. Yeah. And now he has used that to help, so far, tens of thousands of dads.
I think he's just getting started, because I'm going to tell everybody.
A letter is that voice, whether you can hear it or you can read it, and that is a gift.
Okay, so I was 19 years old, and I got a call from my mom. I was at the University of Arkansas. Go Hogs, Doug. And my mom said, Blake, we're going to take a family vacation to Hawaii. And I said, heck yeah, let's go. I've been down to Destin, Florida a few times, but never been to Hawaii. And so a few months later, we boarded the plane. Little did I know that my dad had been working on something. Something that for my sister and my brother, that would, as he was trying to think about his legacy, and something that was going to absolutely change my life. And I had no idea what was coming. And so first day there, we decided to go snorkeling at a place called Hanauma Bay. And so it was my mom, my sister, my brother, my grandmother. They were all on the beach. But then out in the water, it was just me and my dad. And I have to share with you all that there is nowhere else in the world that I wanted to be than right there with my dad. And so I was really fortunate. I had a really good dad. He was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And there was moments growing up where I was like, oh yeah, that's my dad. And then there were other moments where I was like, oh shoot, that's my dad. Maybe you can relate. But overall, my dad was my hero. Long before I was, at this time in my life, he was a hospital CEO. But long before I was born, he was known as a football player. So he was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons to play tight end. But his main claim to fame is that he was Terry Bradshaw's tight end at Louisiana Tech. And so they were best friends and roommates. My dad caught Bradshaw's first ever collegiate touchdown pass. And then I've got this really cool picture. So also Phil Robertson was my dad's quarterback. But right before the 1970 draft, which probably none of you guys know anything about, but Terry Bradshaw went number 1 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which was a huge deal for North Louisiana and for Louisiana Tech. But they got to go hang out with President Nixon. So my dad was a very humble guy. So he hardly ever told anyone that he was Terry Bradshaw's tight end. I told everybody. It was my claim to fame. And so there we were out there in the water. And at first we're just over this coral reef. It's like 5 feet deep, but then we just kept going further and further out. And we ended up off this point over here. And now it's about 50 feet deep. This area I now know is called Witch's Brew. It's known for its treacherous waters. And it was that day. And there was this moment where I realized, man, I don't know where my dad is anymore. And so I'm scanning the water, looking for him. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? And then I see him. And I remember thinking, okay, good. There's my dad. Except not good, because my dad was struggling. One reason I knew he was struggling is because he was trying to get out of the water, and there was no good place to get out of the water. The only place was these rocks, and the waves are just crashing against it. And sure enough, about halfway up, a wave hits my dad, knocks him back down in the water. I swim over there. I'm looking for him. I can't find him anywhere. Now I'm exhausted. I've got to get out of the water. And so the only place is the same place my dad tried. But by the grace of God, I'm able to climb up on top of these rocks. And I'm scanning the water looking for him. And there he is. And he's still treading water. And he looks up at me and he says, I need help. I need help. And my dad had this really big, deep, booming voice, but this cry for help was more like a soft whimper. And so I turned around, I faced the beach, and I began to just wave my arms. I'm yelling as loudly as I can, hoping that somebody might see me. They look like tiny ants. That's how far away they are. And so I turned back around towards my dad, and I had a decision to make. Am I going to just stand here, or am I going to jump in after him? And I knew I couldn't just stand there. And so I jumped in. I swam about 10 yards to where he was. But now he's underneath the water. And he's just kind of floating there, unconscious. And so I dive down. I wrap my arms around my dad. I bring him back up to the surface. And I began to swim with him to the shore. I had to go around this point. And it was about then that I realized, man, there's no way I'm going to make it. Like I'm absolutely exhausted. And in that moment, a nearby snorkeler showed up and he began to help me get my dad to the shore. And then the lifeguard showed up and they put him on a surfboard and they brought him the rest of the way in. And they started doing CPR. And I stood there next to them, feeling incredibly helpless. And I did the only thing I knew to do. I just began to cry out to God. God, would you please save my dad's life? And I really thought that at any moment that my dad was about to come to, that his eyes were going to kind of flicker open, the water's going to spew out of his mouth like you see in the movies. And it never happened. And so my dad drowned that day. And it went from one of the best days of my life to the worst. Just like that. And I'm like, what just happened? We were just in the water a few minutes ago having the time of our life, and now my dad is gone forever. So a few hours later, we're back in the condo, and I had just called my dad's parents. My mom was in no condition to do it, so it was on me, the oldest son. My dad's parents were devastated. That was a hard phone call to make. Called some other family members, some family friends, our church, my dad's work, all phone calls I never thought I'd be making in a million years. And then I go to the back bedroom, and I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed, and it was as if the world just kind of stood still in this moment. And I began to really grasp the situation. And I just asked God, what happened? And where were you? And how are we going to make it without my dad? How am I going to make it without him? And it was in that moment my mom appeared in the doorway, and she said, Blake, I found something in your dad's briefcase, something that I know he was going to give you on this trip. And she walked across the room and she handed me a letter from my dad. And I began to read that letter, and it was everything that I needed in that moment. And I've never heard my dad's voice more clearly than when I read that letter for the first time. And his voice comforted me. I felt a sense of peace. I felt hope that everything was going to be okay. And then I felt incredibly loved. Like, do not tell me that my dad did not love me. He took the time in the midst of his busy schedule with everything going on to put it down on paper. And I get to the last line of this letter, and my dad was a man of faith, so I wasn't surprised that he wrote this, but I do believe God allowed him to write it. He wrote, as you are being faithful to God and to the Bible, you're often going to find yourself in the minority here on earth. But I can assure you that in heaven, you'll be in the majority. Love your dear old dad. And I remember reading that and just thinking, man, I'm going to see my dad again. I can't imagine my life without this letter. In the coming days and weeks and months, I experienced more pain than I ever felt in my life. And I understand this now more than I did then, but my life was really at a crossroads. Like I could have left this situation angry, depressed, a victim, bitter at the world, bitter at God. I could have tried to do some harmful things to try to escape the pain that I was feeling. And I didn't do any of those things. It was like the exact opposite. Over the next 12 months, I grew more as a person, grew more as a leader, grew more in my faith, closer to my family. More than any other 12-month stretch of my life, discovered my life purpose. And I had some professional counselors tell me, Blake, you have grieved this in a very healthy way compared to most people. And I said, yeah, most people don't get a letter like this from their dad. And so for the last 22 years, that letter and his words and his voice have continued to guide me. And so then it was a few years ago when I became a dad. And I'm sitting there looking at my children. There they are, right here. And so we've got Gracie Kate. She's in 4th grade. Gracie Kate's kind of a mouthful, so we named my son Bo. And Bo a couple of years ago, we're at the minor league baseball game here in Tulsa, and there's this playground out past center field. And he goes, "Hey, can I go play on that playground?" I said, "Yeah, you can go." And he goes, "But I'm not going to tell him my name." I said, "Bo, what do you mean you're not going to tell him your name?" He goes, "I don't want him to know. You know, it's like a bow that you put in a girl's hair." And I said, "Bo, that's not your name, man. Nobody's thinking that." I was like, "You got a strong name." I said, "Think Bo Jackson." So we started watching Bo Jackson videos and football and baseball. And then we got Brooks, who's 5, and then we got baby Baylor, who's a little over a year old. And I was a little not sure about the name Baylor, but my wife really wanted it. You know, we have no connection to that school. And then I caught her a couple months ago. You know, like with all of our sons, maybe some of y'all do this. We put the name Bear at the end of it. So Bo Bear, hey Bo Bear, and then Brooks comes along, hey Brooksy Bear, and then I heard her saying, "Hey Baylor Bear," and I said, "No, we're not calling him Baylor Bear." But just like anybody on this call that's a parent, I'm like, man, okay, I want to be a good dad here. I want to help them be successful, confident. I want to pass down, you know, our family values. And I see what's going on in the world and some of the noise that's out there. Like, I know they need to hear my voice. How do I make sure they hear my voice? Oh, man, I got to write them a letter. If anyone knows the value of a letter from their dad, it's me. And so I pulled out a blank sheet of paper. And I got to say, it was so overwhelming looking at that blank sheet of paper. Like, what the heck am I going to write? Ended up doing a lot of research over the next couple of months because I knew I had to finish this letter, and I knew I wanted to do it right. Like, if we're going to take time to write the letter, let's do it right. Like, what are the words that my children really need to hear from me? And through this research, man, my conviction grew even more for my role in their life, my words, and writing this letter and finish it. And man, one of the hardest things I've ever done, but man, it felt good to have this letter. One of the best things I've ever done because I was doing it for my kids, but I realized in writing this letter, man, something happened to me. Like, I became a better man, a better dad, as this letter forced me to think about, man, what do I want to be true of my family? And I ended up understanding and knowing my children on a deeper level. And then it was around that time, I met a couple different guys, and actually Doug and I were at a conference in Nashville, and I'm listening to this guy talk about how he had gotten a life-changing letter from his dad. And I'm listening to his story, and I just heard someone else's story. I'm thinking about the letter I wrote, my kids. I'm like, man, okay, you guys got a letter. I got a letter. Man, we got to help more people get this letter. And we can change the world. Through legacy letters, we can change families, we can change communities. And so that's where our mission started, to help 1 million people write at least one well-written, meaningful, lasting legacy letter. And so we put together an outline for people to write, not just any letter, but a legacy letter with all the things that are in your heart that you want to share. But also there's some things they need to hear. And we want to make sure that all of those words are in that letter, and it can be written in a way that's received. And so for the last 5 years, we've helped about 20,000 people go through this, and had no idea how it was going to go and how we were going to grow it. But there's been just some incredible people like Keith and Doug who've come alongside us and say, hey, we got some people that we care about. And so we've been speaking around the country to with different groups and businesses, to their employees and their clients, and helping them write this letter. And this is what we're going to do today. I'm going to guide you through section by section of this letter. And as I'm writing, you're going to be taking notes. The goal today is for you to leave equipped and to be well on your way to a finished letter. And I tell people, hey, you may not finish it. That's not necessarily the goal today, because you got to go maybe wrestle through some things. That being said, usually at the end of every workshop, someone says, hey, you told me I probably wasn't going to finish, but I finished. And they were really able to focus in and get it done. So it is possible. I'll tell you about this one guy, and maybe you're thinking the same thing. It's like, okay, do I really need some help writing this letter? Like, why do I need this? And that's kind of how this one guy was. It was a team at Walmart. I was going to Walmart headquarters, and And Kent's like, man, I'm a really good dad here. Like, I've got adult children, they're doing great. And we say, I love you a lot in my family. And so I don't know if I really need it. But then he started going through the workshop and he got it. He's like, oh, I get the legacy letter now. And he could not wait to give it to his children. He decided to do it on Christmas. And so he gave it to his 3 adult sons. Christmas morning, they open it up. Of course, they love to read from their dad how much he loves them and how proud he is of them. But then it was his daughter, 31 years old, young mom. She goes home that night and she calls back. Dad had gone to bed, so she gets mom on the phone. And she says, Mom, this is the best Christmas that I've ever had in my life. And mom goes, well, we love hosting you guys. We love having everybody. And she goes, no, Mom, it was Dad's letter. I did not know how much Dad loved me. I assumed that he loved my brothers more than me because he's always hunting with them and fishing with them and doing sports. And I just assumed he loved them more than me. But now I see how much he really loves me. And this letter has brought closure into my life. And I asked Kent, I said, Kent, man, did you have any idea that your daughter was having those thoughts? And he was heartbroken, to be honest. And he said, Blake, I had no idea. He told me, he said, Blake, the truth is we spent twice as much money on her as we did the boys. But here's what's true. We're telling ourselves a story about how much we love them and love our family and love our children. And they're also telling themselves a story about how much you love them. And there's no way this story is matching up perfectly. And so this letter is about getting that story right, leaving nothing to doubt. No, this is how I feel about you. And then we're going to go win their hearts. And that's what all of our children are begging us to do. Dad, Mom, come win my heart. And we got to do some intentional stuff, some things like this to win their heart. And when we win their heart, they're better off for it. Okay. So today, we'll go through this workshop. And then at the end, if there's anyone who has any Q&A, we will answer that. One question I have for you is, what is your motivation to write your legacy letter? There's so many great motivations. We say any stage, any age, any situation. And so we've helped people write to their newborns, we've helped 90-year-old ladies write to their children, and everywhere in between. Sometimes people have, hey, the relationship is great. Sometimes, man, I'm not as close to them as I once was. And there's some tension there, like maybe something has happened. Or maybe you're currently not on speaking terms, or you're currently estranged, or you're experiencing parental alienation. And if that's you, I just want you to know, man, my heart goes out to you. And I'm glad that you're here today. I'm glad that you're watching. And I just want you to know you're not alone. Like, this is happening at record numbers across the country. There was a dad recently in Tulsa writing this letter to his daughter that he hadn't seen in 4 years. And this letter gives him hope, he told me. Gives me hope that my daughter's going to come home. Okay, let's get started on writing our letter. So again, you guys are all taking notes. Let me give you some quick tips on how to write a good letter. Number one, you want to speak from the heart. You want to be authentic. The more that you're speaking from the heart, the better the letter will be. You're not trying to write a letter to all the kids of the world. You're not trying to write a New York Times bestseller. Your kids just want to hear your heart. There was a dad recently in St. Louis. He said, Blake, I'm kind of a jokester. Like, am I allowed to joke in this letter? And I told him, I said, man, you better joke in this letter. I said, if you don't, they're going to think somebody else wrote it. So just be yourself. Number two, write the way you talk. Don't overthink the words. You have to use big flowery words. However you talk, that's how you write. Number three, longer is not necessarily better. And I think Mark Twain said in a letter, I'm sorry I didn't have enough time to make this letter more concise. And so we're not, some of you could probably write a novel. We're not trying to write a novel. We're trying to write something they can read in one sitting. And let me say this, because I want to really take the pressure off. If you come up with one sentence for every section of this letter, you're going to have a powerful letter. You're going to have more than what most people are getting. And I'm sure there's some of you on this call right now who would love to get a letter like this, even if it was one sentence for every section. And for some of you, it's too late. You're not going to get it. So it doesn't have to be a long letter for it to be really powerful. Number 4, forget perfection. Focus on completion. I don't know how many perfectionists we have today, but man, forget trying to make this thing perfect. You're not going to make it perfect. And as long as you're trying to make it perfect, it's not in their life. It's not working. These words are not working in their life, influencing them, building them up. And so we want to get this into their hands as soon as possible. And then number 5, set a completion date and then commit. And so I've noticed the people who set that date and maybe they told somebody, had some accountability, maybe you're going to say in the next 7 days, while this thing is fresh, man, I'm just going to grind it out. I'm going to get this thing finished. Or maybe it's by Christmas. There's a lot of people working on this letter for Christmas right now. And when are all of those people going to be finishing up this letter on Christmas Eve? They're going to be typing this thing up or finishing it out, writing it. And I'll say this, you're not going to feel good until you get this letter done. Like there's going to be this kind of monkey on your back. And don't be mad at me. Be mad at Keith and Doug. There you go. Okay. Let's get started on this intro section of the letter. So again, you're trying to write and take as many notes as possible. The intro section, you're going back to this question. Why are you writing this letter? You're setting the stage for what's about to come. They have no idea. They're about to read this letter. Like, what is this? And so you simply just want to tell them, like, why are you writing this letter? You're not trying to make them read between the lines. I have a father-in-law who's a great father-in-law. And you know what? He is really good at making us read between the lines. Like, I never know what that man is thinking. That's not this letter. We're trying to do our best to let them know what we're thinking. One parent said it like this: I've never been shy of saying how much I love you. I hope those words always mean something to you. This letter is my way of expressing the depth and meaning of my love for you. One thing I've always believed is that there are no accidents in life. Recently, Jeff, my friend and financial advisor, introduced me to a program called the Legacy Letter Challenge. I had been searching for a way to express many thoughts and feelings to you, but I was struggling to find the right approach. This seems like a great start. I intentionally picked this because people ask me all the time, like, how did your dad at 19 years old all of a sudden write this letter to you? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know. And if there was someone who encouraged him to do this, I would love to go thank that person. It's up to you whether you want to mention that you went through a workshop or went through the Legacy Letter Challenge. You don't have to. But here's my thought. There's no shame in saying that you got some help. Like, it's the exact opposite. The things that really matter to you in life, man, you get some help on. And so what are you really communicating? You're communicating, hey, you really matter to me. And this letter really mattered to me. And I wanted to make sure that I got it right. And if somehow I found out that my dad went to a workshop to write me this letter, I'd be like, he did. My dad did that for me. And if it was in the middle of the workday. And so I say that to say, like, what you're doing today is really special. Like, you should be really proud. Like, do you know how many people out there do not have somebody in their life like you? In the middle of the workday to attend a workshop, to write a legacy letter. And they would give anything to have somebody like you in their life. So what you're doing today is really special. And I love this thought. What if everybody in Indianapolis or in Indiana or in the whole country was somehow on the call with us today and writing this letter, and everybody was about to receive the letter like what you're about to write? Like, this world would be a different place. I truly believe that. Like, I'm giving my life to it. Okay. So this is the introduction. Now we're going to move on to the apology section of the letter. Now, the apology section exists for a couple different reasons. I'll go and put it out there. This is one of my favorite sections of the letter. Not because it's easy, it's one of the hardest, but because of how powerful it is. And so what can happen between, us and our loved ones and our children, there kind of can be this invisible wall that exists between us and them because of things that have been said, things that have been done. Again, your words are so powerful in their life, like the most powerful. And so there's things that you've said you didn't mean to hurt them, but because your words are so powerful, like it did. And so we do not want there to be anything blocking what you're about to write, because you're about to write some incredible stuff. And so one of the best ways to kind of bring this wall down is to apologize. It also sets an incredible tone to the letter, a tone of humility. We're not trying to control them in any way with this letter. That's not the tone. It's a tone of humility. And so you could simply write something like this, kind of a general apology. Hey, before I share with you a few important things, I just want you to know that I've made mistakes as your dad, as your mom. I recognize that. And for those times that I've come up short, I'm sorry. And those couple sentences right there are so powerful for them to read from you. Most people are not getting this from their dad or their mom or their spouse or who. And so when they read this, you just... you set the tone for the letter, and you prepared their heart in a way to read the rest of the things that you're going to write. You could write it like this. Hey, I know I've come up short as your father or mother at times. At the time, I thought I was doing good, but looking back, I realized I could have done better. I'm sorry. And so some people come into this and they say, Blake, I got some specific things I need to apologize for. Like, that's the reason I'm writing this letter. And if that is you today, I want to help you do this well. There's some things you can do to mess this up. My buddy got a letter a few years ago from his dad. And overall, it was a pretty good letter. I didn't help him write it. This is before I was doing Legacy Letter. And his dad tried to apologize. And he said, I'm really sorry that you and your brother had to experience your mom and I's divorce when you were in high school. And if he had stopped right there, that probably would have been good, because his next sentence, he said, your mom is a really good mom, but she's a horrible wife. And my friend is reading that like, what? Like, Dad, like, you can't say that. First of all, it's not even true. I lived with you guys, like you were equally as responsible. And, I'm kind of laughing about it, but it wasn't funny. Like, it was actually really hurtful. Like, my friend and his brother, they couldn't even read the rest of the letter. And the letter backfired of what the dad was trying to accomplish, because they didn't even want to talk to their dad afterwards. Why? Because he didn't take responsibility. He didn't own it. And so if you're going to apologize, and if you wanted to do it well, and if you want this letter to have the impact that you really want to have, you got to take responsibility. You got to own it. We all are where we are in life because of the choices we've made. Things have absolutely happened to us. We got to choose how to respond to those. And maybe there's a situation where you're trying to give some context, like maybe you realize there were some times where you were maybe absent, and maybe you were kind of going through some personal things. Like a mom told me a couple months ago, she's like, man, yeah, when my kids were younger, there was some stuff going on, and I just could not be there like I needed them to be emotionally. Or maybe like one dad said, man, I realize I've had some anger issues, and I took it out on my kids, and they got the brunt of it. But my dad was like that. And so I was really just living out how my dad was. But I'm changing. I have changed. It's okay to give some context like that, but in no way do you want to come across as the victim. You can do that with somebody else, with a friend or, a counselor. In this letter, you got to own it. Own your actions. Number two, you want to express regret. For you to say I'm sorry is powerful, but to take it a step further, not only am I sorry, I regret it. If I could go back, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have done that. Number three, be sincere by expressing that you understand. And so here's the thing. Everybody wants to be understood. And the more that you're able to help them see that you understand and show some empathy, that easier it is going to be for them to receive your apology. I had a friend a few years ago. She confronted her mentor and said, "Hey, you've really hurt me." And the mentor had no idea. It was like, "Oh man, like, I didn't mean to. I'm really sorry." And my friend was like, "They said I'm sorry, but it doesn't. I don't really think they understand how they really hurt me. It's like they were saying I'm sorry because they're supposed to say I'm sorry. So it's hard for me to receive the apology." Well, to this person's credit, they ended up going to some counseling and a mediator. And after several months, the mentor got it. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I did not mean to hurt you, but I totally see how I hurt you now. And I'm so sorry. I mean, if I could go back, I wouldn't have acted in that way. I wouldn't have said those things." And it was in that moment that my friend was able to fully receive that apology. He's like, okay, they get it. And this can be really hard for some people because you're tempted to look at your kids who are maybe complaining about some stuff or, have some issues. And you just want to be like, what's your problem? Like, you have had it so much easier than what I had it growing up. But the truth is, I don't care if you came from the best family in America or the wealthiest family. You have your own set of issues and you have your hardest day. And maybe it's different from yours, but there's still some hard things. Everyone has hard things. Or maybe you have multiple kids and a couple of them are doing just fine and a third one has issues. And you're tempted to say, like, what is the deal here? Like, everybody else is doing just fine. Like, get with the program. But the truth is that everybody experiences you differently. And because of your personality, their personality, like if you have siblings, you have a different relationship with your parents than what your siblings do. This could be because of the birth order. The financial situation could change from the last child to the first child. Like, there's so many variables. And so you want to be as understanding as possible. Put yourself in their shoes to try to understand. I'm not saying it's hard or it's easy. Like, this can be really hard. Number 4, you want to own up to your you want to excuse me. You want to own up to your part, not theirs. So usually when you're apologizing, the other person has something to apologize for too. And I can assume on this call today, there's some people that your children have absolutely done some things they need to apologize for. They've said some hurtful things. And if you bring up the thing that they need to apologize for, you'll mess the whole thing up. And so my heart goes out to you if that's if your situation. But you don't want to bring up what they need to apologize for. And then number 5, you want to let go of the results because you cannot control their response. So this is true with the apology. I mean, I have definitely been guilty of when I've had to go apologize to my wife, and I've had to a lot, of knowing how she should respond to my apology. And it never went the way I thought it should. And there's been moments where I'm sitting there like, okay, when is she going to say something? Like, I said what I needed to say. And then I would end up getting mad. And I'd end up saying some more things that I then needed to go back and apologize for those things. So you got to let go of the results with the apology, but also with the whole letter. Some of you are going to give the letter and you'll get this great response. And you're going to be nervous when you finish the letter. You're going to be nervous, you're going to be excited, you're going to be maybe a little fearful. You've written some things, you don't know how they're going to receive it. one dad I'm thinking of, he not everyone does it on Christmas morning, but he gave his letters to his son on Christmas morning. This guy was in Delta Force, and so he'd been deployed a lot. He's writing this letter to try to connect with his sons on a deeper level. And they opened it up Christmas morning, and he was all excited to see how they were going to respond. And they just kind of looked at it like, you got me a letter, huh? It's like, that's not the normal thing for Christmas. And he said, hey, it's fine. Go home and, you can read it on your own time. Well, they read it, and they came back the next day, and he was ready for a big response. And he said, all they did was come up to me and gave me a little bro hug and, hey, Dad, thanks for the letter. And he told me, he's like, Blake, I was thinking I poured my heart and soul into that thing, and all they're going to say is, hey, Dad, thanks for the letter. But he said, I didn't say anything. Well, several months go by, still nothing else. And then 6 months go by. And he gets a call from his buddy. And his buddy says, hey, Jeff, I was just hanging out with your son. And he told me that you wrote him a letter for Christmas. Your son told me that it's his most treasured possession, that he reads it every single week, sometimes multiple times a week. Jeff had no idea. I called his son. Jeff gave me his number, and he said, man, the first time I read that letter was the closest that I ever felt to my dad in my life. And that's the power of this legacy letter. But the people that do the best, it's those who are willing to let go of the results. Say, hey, I'm going to do it. I know I needed to write this letter, so I'm going to write it. And we'll let it play out. And just because they don't give you a great response does not mean that the words are not working in their life, influencing them, building their confidence. Okay. A couple other thoughts on this apology, and we're going to move on. Some people will write at the end of it and say, hey, I know there's some things I've said or done that maybe I don't even know about. And maybe there's some stuff you want to come talk to me. Just know that I've got an open door. Like, you can come talk to me. If you write this, though, you got to be really careful, because they might actually come talk to you. And if they come talk to you and your response is, what? That's not what I meant when I said that. That's not how you should feel. Man, you just shut them down. And it was probably just tip of the iceberg of what they really wanted to share with you. So you got to be ready. You got to prepare your heart right now. Say, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you felt this way. That when I said that, then it hurt you in that way. I don't even know if I completely understand. Please tell me more. And you'll let them share more. And this might be one of the hardest things you've ever done in your life, to just swallow your pride in this moment and just let them talk. And it'll be maybe one of the best things you've ever done for them. And last thought, there was a guy writing this letter last year, and he was writing to his son that him and his wife had adopted when he was 6 years old. They went and rescued him out of an orphanage. Like, amazing story. And I love adoption stories. And he simply wrote to his son and said, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to come get you sooner. And so maybe there's something like that that's happened in their life that's completely out of your control, like not your fault at all. But you're just able to communicate, I'm sorry that happened to you. Okay. All right. You're tearing down those walls so that they can receive these next 3 sections. And these next 3 sections are arguably the most important, because we're going to answer some questions that they're all asking. The first question is, Dad, Mom, how do you really feel about me? And this is where we're going to let them know that we love them and that we unconditionally love them. And so the more that they can understand this, the more confident, the more successful they'll be. I love the story that Kobe Bryant shared a year before he died in the helicopter crash. Kobe said that when he was 12 years old, he was playing basketball up in New Jersey in a summer league. He gets to the end of the summer and he had not scored a single point the entire summer. And he's so frustrated and he's so mad. But then he said his dad walked up to him, put his arm around him and said, "Kobe, I don't care if you score 0 points or 60 points. I'm going to love you no matter what." And Kobe said that was the best thing his dad could have ever told him, because it was in that moment he was freed up to just fully go for it, like he could not fail. And so, that thought was running through his mind the rest of his NBA career. And he was telling a story after he's retired that he knew that no matter what happened when his head came off that pillow in the morning, whatever happened that day, and his head went back on that pillow, his dad was going to love him. And that's what you want your children knowing. When they know this, when they know that they're unconditionally loved, it provides this sense of security, like this safety net in their life. And as they're going through life and they're trying to decide, man, am I really going to go for it? Like, am I going to take some risks here? And when they look down and they see this safety net called dad's unconditional love or mom's unconditional love, man, it allows them to go for it, because they know, hey, if I mess up, if I fail, I'm fine. I'm good. I got this safety net down here. And so the more they can understand this, the bigger that safety net gets, the more they can see it. So you might write something like this: no matter what happens tomorrow or the next day, I want you to know that I'm going to love you no matter what. And so this simple sentence right here, like, this is a powerful sentence for them to get and for them to read, to know you chose these words. This section is arguably the most important, as I've said. It does not take a lot of sentences for you to come really strong. Like, you can come really strong in 1, 2, 3 sentences. I love telling this story. Terry Bradshaw came to Tulsa last year, and he was doing a concert. I don't know if people know this, but Terry Bradshaw is a singer. So he sang 12 songs. I don't even know if the crowd knew they were coming to a concert. It's just like, well, it's Terry Bradshaw. And I will say he's not a bad singer. He's pretty good. I will also say he was never going to make it as a professional singer. But when you've won 4 Super Bowls, do what you want. And so I got to go backstage and hang out with him. It was pretty fun. He was telling some stories about my dad. But it was about a year before this, we did an interview on Zoom. And it was about his fatherhood journey. And he was talking about his girls, but he also talked about his dad. And he said, man, growing up, I had my dad and I were not that close. My dad was a really hard man, and we never played catch in the front yard, nothing like that. And then when I retired from the Steelers, he said he bought a ranch, and his dad was into ranching. And he said they bonded for the first time. And one day he looked at his dad and said, "Dad, I know that you love us, but I've never heard you say it. And I want to hear you say it." This took some guts to say this to his dad. And his dad responded, well, Terry, you know that I love you guys. Terry's like, I know. And I want to hear you say it. And for the first time in Terry Bradshaw's life, he heard his dad say, I love you, son. And some of you right now, if I could talk to your children, they would say, hey, I know that, I know that you love me, Dad. I know that you love me, Mom, Grandpa. But I want to hear you say it. I want to see it written out. And some of you might say, no, they for sure know. Like, I say it a lot. You know what your kids are saying? They're saying, tell me again. Tell me again. And how much? Like, how much do you really love me? So that's what we're doing with this section of the letter. We're letting them know how much. We're going to come as strong as we can, knowing that the more they understand the depth of your love for them, the better off they're going to be. Like, do you think my kids right now can comprehend how much I love them? Do they really know the depth of my love? No, they cannot. I can go tell them right now, they still would not be able to fully understand the depth of my love for them. And so it's my job as their dad to help them understand this every single day with my words, with my actions. And sometimes I do things that does not make it feel like I love them. And so sometimes I have to apologize for those things. And sometimes they just misunderstood, like when I discipline them or things like that. And so we never know what kind of lies our children are making up. We want to assume. You want to assume right now they're making up lies. This is just what happens in the human mind. So maybe there's been a divorce situation, or maybe it's because you travel. Maybe like they play sports or they play music, and maybe you're an academic family, like these really good things. Like I love that my sons play sports and my daughters in dance. Like these things are help building their character. But I'm at risk, just like everybody on this call is at risk, of my sons thinking that they have to perform for my love, that they have to score another goal, that they've got to win another game. Now, I've never said that. I've never said they have to do that, but that doesn't mean that they're not either making that lie up right now or in the future. So I got to make it really clear. Hey, my love for you is not based on your performance or anything that you do. Could be in a situation where they see the world differently than you. Maybe especially if they've gotten older and maybe they don't have the same faith as you, or maybe they're in a different political party. And for you to just make it really clear, like, that doesn't change my love for you. Like, we can see differently. We can see the world differently. I still love you. And maybe you get to a spot where you just have to say, because you can't even find the words to describe how much you love them. I don't even have the words to express how much I love you. Okay, so that's the I love you section. You're going to let them know how much you love them. This next section, you're going to answer this question. Are you proud of me? Dad, Mom, are you proud of me? And they're all asking that question. And we're really going to focus on not what they've done, but who they are. So last year we were over in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, where my mom and stepdad live. There's a lot of golf in there. It's a retirement community. A lot of lakes. And Bo told me that he wanted to catch a bass. And he'd caught a lot of perch in his life, and he'd, used a worm and corn and hot dogs, but he wanted to use artificial lures. And so we're out there fishing for bass. We've got plastic worms on, which is a lot of fun fishing. And man, we get out there and we're out there all day. We're into the middle of the afternoon and he has not caught a bass. I've been catching them, so I know that they're out there, but he hadn't caught one. And he kept going. And then all of a sudden I hear, Dad, I got one. And the pole is like bent over sideways. I'm running over there as quickly as I can. And I practically jumped into this lake to try to land this bass. I was not letting it get away, and pulled it in, and man, we're just going nuts. And pretty good sized bass. I'd take that one any day of the week. And it was just a really exciting moment. Well, then that night, Bo comes up to me and he says, Daddy, are you so proud of me for catching that bass? Oh man, what a great question. And I know that he's going to be asking that question for the rest of his life. He's asking it as a 5-year-old, but he's going to be asking it as a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 25, 30, 40, 50. The difference is he's going to stop asking it out loud. But in the innocence of a 6-year-old, he asked it out loud. And so what a great opportunity for me to let him know what makes me proud. I said, Bo, I'm not proud of you for catching that bass. I said, I was just really happy for you. Because I saw how bad you wanted this, and I saw how happy you were and how much joy you got from it. So I got joy from seeing you get so much joy. Now, I'll tell you what made me proud. Bo, I saw how you stayed out there the whole day. Like, you had to really work to get this bass. Like, you had to grind it out. You had to persevere. Man, most kids your age would have given up, but you kept going. You didn't give up. That's what I'm proud of. I'm proud of your perseverance, the effort. That's what I'm proud of. But just for catching it, nah, I'm just happy for you. And so as you think about what you're going to affirm them for, you can think about some of their accomplishments, but really you want to focus on the character that it took to make that accomplishment. One dad said, man, I'm a baseball family. My son played college baseball, hit the game-winning home run a couple of times, like proud dad moment. I said, am I allowed to talk about that? I said, yeah, absolutely. But you saw what it took to get to that spot of hitting the game-winning home run, the perseverance, the hard work, the times that he failed, he could have given up, but he kept going. Because if you only focus and say, I'm proud of you for hitting the game-winning home run, he'll notice. Be like, oh man, that's what I have to do to make dad proud. I can't keep this up. Like, I got to hit the game-winning home run, and you risk embittering him and looking for affirmation for somewhere else. And so we do not want them to ever wonder what makes us proud. We don't want to assume that they know. We got to let them know. And we know that the things that we affirm them for, man, this is what they're going to repeat. Like, we're sending a signal. That right there was good. I think about this little puppy we got a couple Christmases ago from Santa Claus. My wife's idea. And I knew I was going to be the one taking care of this thing and teaching it how to go to the bathroom outside. And it's not Indiana cold, but it's still, in Tulsa, it's still cold at 11 p.m. at night and 6 a.m. in the morning. Come on, dog, go to the bathroom. But if you've ever trained a dog, you know that you don't just tell a dog to sit and it just knows how to sit. You got to train it and you got to teach it. And there's little steps along the way. And every time it accomplishes one of those steps, you give a little treat. Hey, that right there was good. And what does the dog learn? Oh, I get a treat when I sit. Our kids are really similar. Even the people you work with, like if you have a new hire, like they have no idea what your culture is, what's expected of them. And so with your words, you can affirm them and say, hey, I saw how you talked to that customer today, or I saw how you did that. Like, that was really good. And it's the same way with our kids. And so this section of the letter, we're going to affirm them. We will send you this list of character traits to help you think through, what you want to affirm them for. And this section of the letter is so important because as our children are asking the question, like who am I? The world will definitely try to answer that question for them. We don't want the world to answer that question for them. We want it to be us. And so we're talking about their identity here. Like, who am I? This is who you are. I see the word brave on there. My daughter, compared to, like, if we lined up all of our daughters, she's probably the least brave. But there's been these moments where, she was the last one to learn how to dive into the swimming pool compared to her brothers and her friends because she was so nervous and scared. But in that moment, I was so proud of her because it was really hard for her, but she did it. She showed a lot of courage. And I have a choice to make as her dad. I could label her as a scaredy cat, maybe just in fun or just in jest. But what I label her as matters because that's what she'll believe about herself. And I know that for the rest of her life, she's going to be facing situations where she's a little bit nervous. And I don't want her thinking, I can't do it. I'm just a scaredy cat. And subconsciously she's thinking, yeah, because that's what my dad told me. No, I want her thinking, no, I know I can do this. I'm a little nervous, but I know I can do it. Because my daddy said I could. He said I'm brave. He said I'm a person of courage. He said I'm an overcomer. Those are the thoughts that I want going through her head. One parent said, Christian, I am proud of the individual that you are. You think independently and critically. You don't just think selfishly, but you consider others in your thought process. I am proud of you because you stay true to yourself, even though it may not be popular with others. How cool is this for Christian? He just found out, hey, I'm unselfish, and that's good. I guarantee you that he's not the most independent thinker or the most critical thinker. But he just got affirmed in it. So what's he going to do now? He's going to continue to grow and develop in those areas even more. And last point on this section, and this one line might be the best line of the whole letter for some of your children and some of the situations they're in. Hey, I see how you've been wired, your unique giftings and your unique personality, and I just want you to know I wouldn't change anything about you. I know a guy who's in a band, very successful band, traveled the world, platinum level, they're famous. But he told a group of us, he said, man, my dad is a business guy. And I get this sense from my dad that he's never going to be proud of me until I'm good at business. But he said, I'm not good at business. I'm good at music. And he longed for his dad just to affirm him for who he is. My daughter, not very good at math. Needs a lot of help, a lot of tutoring. And she has a younger brother that's 2 years younger. And he's off the charts good at math. Like, she struggles on her homework, he comes in and does it for her. And he's getting praised for how quickly he's picking up math. And so she feels a little bit insecure about it. And like something maybe is wrong with her. And I'm like, Gracie Kate, first of all, you don't have to be good at math to make it in this world. A lot of people are not good at math. Like, this is what they make calculators for. You'll be just fine. But also, I just want you to know, like, you have so many wonderful things and attributes about you that make you, you. And if I could somehow go back into mommy's womb and change who you are, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't make you all of a sudden good at math. It's like, no, God made you this way. And if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for me. And that's the message that she's got to be telling herself, because it's true. Okay, we're going to answer another question in this section. In this section of the letter, we're going to answer the question, do you believe in me? And you're going to write something like this. I want you to know that I believe in you. No matter what happens in life or what curveball is thrown your way, you are going to make it. You've got what it takes. And man, I had some amazing grandparents. Like, praise God for good grandparents and good grandmothers. They believed in me. I knew it. My dad believed in me. But my mom, she's the one who communicated it really well. A couple of times she looked at me point blank and she said, Blake, I don't know what you're going to end up doing in life, but I know that you're going to be successful. And you might be thinking, come on, dude, like, that's your mom. Like, of course your mom said that, do you? Here's the thing. My mom believed it. I could hear it in her voice. And because she believed it, I believed it. And there's been moments where I'm like, man, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing. But I remember what my mom said. And I had to borrow her confidence in me to keep going. And so in this section of the letter, you want to communicate confidence and hope and that they're going to make it. And there's going to be moments where they're living off of your confidence in them. And so this section of the letter, you're looking out into the future of what could be true. Like best case scenario, what's true 10 or 20 years from now. And you're going to believe that they're going to make it there. And like I know, my children are going to mess up. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to disappoint me. They're human. But I'm going to believe that in those situations, man, that's just going to make them stronger. Like it's going to be good for them. And they're going to figure it out. Maybe not immediately. Because in this section of the letter is really hard for those of you that your children are really in the middle of making some mistakes. They're in the middle of not living up to their potential. But let me say this. You are never going to shame your children into who they can become. You cannot shame them into it. But you can believe for them that they're going to get there. Now, they might make it without you believing in them. But if they do, it'll be because somebody else came into their life and believed in them. Praise God for those people, but you want it to be you as well. And I'll say this, maybe you have some people in your life, and I know Doug has done this for people, where you got to believe in some people and be that person because they were never going to get that at home or from their parents. And so you get to fill that void. And so I love looking for those people that we can believe in for them and bring hope. I love talking about hope. One author said it like this: hope is the rocket fuel in someone's life. Like if you could give them one thing, give them hope. Because when you lose hope, man, that's when you give up. Like you cannot make it through a really hard situation without hope. But if you just have a little bit of hope, you can make it through anything. You also want them to know that you are on their team. That when they mess up, not if, but when, that you're for them. They got to know this. I am guilty just as anybody of my children coming to me, and my gut reaction is to say, oh, like, why'd you do that? Like, you know better than that. And I'm shaming them. Not on purpose. It's just kind of like in my flesh. But if I keep that up, they're not going to want to come talk to me. Like when then when they really need to. And when there's a situation because of me nervous, like, oh, Dad's just going to make us feel even worse. Doesn't mean I have to be okay with what they did. But one of the reasons I'm stressing this is because we do live in a world today where the opportunity for shame is at an all-time high. When we were growing up, you might make a mistake and maybe your friends and maybe your family would find out about it, then you move on from it. But now we live in a world where a picture can be sent, a screenshot can be sent, and the whole world, the whole school, the whole world can find out just like that. And kids every single day are making some mistakes that they're feeling shame over. And how do you live with that? And so I feel for them. And so if my kids make a mistake like that, I want them to know, hey, you can come talk to me. Like life is not over. You're going to be okay. Okay. So those three sections, I love you, I'm proud of you, I believe in you. You want to nail those. All the research shows that if someone has that in their life, then they have more emotional intelligence. We know that EQ is more important than IQ. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't relate with other people, if you're not self-aware, if you can't self-regulate, man, it doesn't matter how smart you are. And so literally you are raising their emotional intelligence by writing these things and writing this letter. This next section of the letter is the memory section. And you can have a pretty impactful letter without any memories. And so I almost look at these memories as like bonus points to the letter. And every memory that you put in there is just like another bonus point. Man, you made it that much sweeter, that much better. And so I recommend coming up with 4 to 5 different memories. Now you might brainstorm and have 10 or 20 on the list. And as you're thinking through each year of their life or going back and looking at old pictures to help jog your memory. And some people just have a section of memories. Hey, when I think about you and your life, like here are, 5 memories that came to my mind. And, watching you play a little league baseball, that trip that we went on together out west. One mom said, one of her favorite memories was just putting her toddler to bed each night. And it was just kind of this sweet time in her life. And so maybe there's something like that that covers a period of time. Or maybe there's something like there was a moment, like a day, like that happened. It might take one sentence. There might be some things that take a couple sentences or more. Maybe there's more of a story there. You might decide to, instead of having a section of memories, you just put the memories into the other sections of the letter, because maybe you have a perfect memory communicating I believe in you, or I'm proud of you, or I love you, or maybe in the intro section, like you remember the moment that you met them or that they were born. I put in to Gracie Kate's letter, I remember the moment that that Amanda told me she was pregnant with her. And we'd been trying for a year to get pregnant. If you've been down that journey, like it's not a fun journey. And we were like starting to go to the doctor to see like what's wrong. And all of a sudden my wife's calling me. I can't switch over. And so then she sends me a picture, a text. And it's a picture of the stick. And I remember just looking at that picture and realizing, man, I'm going to be a dad. And I was so excited in that moment. And I just started weeping there in my truck, and I couldn't wait to meet her. And I intentionally told this to my daughter. I want her to know, hey, from the moment I found out about you, Grace Kate, I loved you, and I was proud of you, and I couldn't wait to meet you. And I saw you as a gift from God. She's got to know that, because it's true. Maybe you have a memory that communicates, I like you. Like it's really powerful for you to say, I love you. But to take it a step further, not only do I love you, I like you. That's powerful to get. One dad, a Houston dad, he said, man, my daughter played travel softball. And we would travel to all these different cities. And my daughter would sit up front with me. And we would just talk about life. And he goes, man, I cherish that time with her. Well, she doesn't know that unless he tells her. And that's a pretty special thing for him to tell her. Maybe there is a memory or something that's happened that your child is building a negative story around. Maybe there's something they failed at or something like that. And you see something totally different. You see how they failed, but then maybe afterwards, how they picked themselves up, how they kept going. They didn't give up. And so that's the story that you want them to be focused on. Okay. Now we're going to come to the advice section. And what a great section, because now we're going to get to share some things with them that we've learned over the years. And, it's an opportunity for them to potentially not make the same mistakes you made, and they can kind of stand on your shoulders and go farther than what you have. There was a guy I was talking to, and he said, Blake, my dad actually passed away a few months ago. And he said, I was at his funeral and all these people are coming up to me, telling me how wonderful my dad was. Saying, man, your dad, he was such a mentor to me. Like I wouldn't be in my career where I am if it wasn't for your dad. And this guy told me that with each person that came up to him, he got more and more mad. He's like, what the heck, Dad? Like, you poured into all these other people and mentored them, and you didn't give me anything. We don't want that to be true. We want to give them something. We want to give them some advice. And so I recommend coming up with 4 or 5 pieces of advice. This is your letter, so you can come up with as much as you want. Just know that with each piece of advice you share, you do water down the previous advice. You don't have to come up with anything, really grand. All the advice is already out there. There's nothing new under the sun. Go to the bookstore, all kinds of advice. And you can come up with some pretty simple advice. And because it's from you and in the context of this letter, it's going to be really powerful. One guy told me, this guy was 75 years old. And he said, Blake, I'll never forget some advice my dad gave me 20 years ago. He said he was 55 years old. It was his wedding day. And his dad walks up to him and says, son, my advice to you is to not go to bed angry. If you got a situation that comes up, work it out before you go to bed. And this guy proudly told me, he said, Blake, for the last 20 years, I have not gone to bed angry. I was up in Kansas City and someone shouted out from the crowd and said, Blake, are you telling us that this man never went to bed? And no, that's not what I'm saying. But the question is why did that advice stick? Because I've heard that advice. It did not stick with me. Here's why. First of all, it's because of who shared this advice with him. Someone he respected and loved. It was his dad. But here's the main reason. It's because of what his dad told him right beforehand. His dad walked up to him and said, son, I just want you to know how much I love you. And in that moment, that 55-year-old man turned into a 9-year-old boy on the inside. Dad, you love me? What else you got for me? And his heart was just opened up. And his dad shared this advice to an open heart. And so it stuck. Question. Where is the advice section in the letter that we're writing today? Is it the first section? Are we coming in hot, section 1, with some advice? No. Keith, Doug, it would not go well if you did this. And so the advice section is after an intro, the apology. I love you. I'm proud of you. I believe in you. Some special memories. And now they're going to be reading this with an open heart. And you're going to increase the chances of them receiving it and it sticking. So you might write something in like this. In life, you're going to face many good times, but you'll also face many trials and challenges. I want to share with you a few things that I've learned and tried to live by that will help you as you navigate life. Now, some of you, as you're thinking through this section, you're like, man, I'm just not at a great spot with my kids right now. Like, I don't think they want to receive any advice from me. Like, maybe you've tried and they gave you the eye roll. Come on, Dad. This happens to everybody. And so a couple things are potentially going on right now, if that's true. The first thing, maybe your kid is just being a butthead right now. That could be true. And then the second thing that could be happening, and you have to be honest with yourself on this one. You may not have earned the right to share some advice with them. I love the phrase, I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. And you might be saying, well, Blake, like, these are my kids. Like, I care a lot. I care a lot. That's not the phrase. The phrase is until I know how much you care. And so that's what you're doing with this letter is you're letting them know how much you care. That being said, a lot of people do this advice section like this. They say, hey, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned a lot over the years. There are many things I would do differently knowing that I know now. Here are a few of the things I would share with my 20-year-old self, with my 5-year-old self, with my 14-year-old self, with the day I graduated college, the day I got married. It doesn't matter. You pick the time, but now you write this letter to yourself, this section of the letter. And it's just received a little bit differently. You're not pointing the finger at them. You're pointing the finger at yourself. And so they still hear it though. They're still influenced by it. And so the 3 questions that you want to answer is, what is the advice? How'd you come up with this advice? So maybe there's an opportunity for you to share a story about yourself. Like, someone told you this? How you learned the hard way? Number 3, how will your life be different if you follow this advice? And let me say this before we go any further on the advice section. Because some of you might not be writing to your children, or you're going to go ahead and write to somebody else, or maybe your spouse. I was talking to a group of dads, and I said, guys, how does your wife feel about you writing this letter to your kids? And they're like, my wife's pretty excited. Like, they think this is a great thing that I'm doing this for our children. I'm like, of course, she thinks that. Like, she loves your kids. And so she loves to see you investing in them in this way. But I said, guys, get ready. Because she's going to ask, hey, where's my letter? And so you're going to need to write a letter to her next. And when you get to this advice section, you're going to want to take it real easy because she does not want any advice from you. And so you can share what you've learned from her over the years. Or if you're writing this to your parents or to your dad or your mom, like you can share what you've learned from them in this section of the letter. A couple things you might think through is, maybe use this section of the letter to share your core values. Hey, these are our core values, or this is our family's core values. Maybe you have some advice around mindset. Like, is there a mindset that you kind of use each day, that you approach each day with? Maybe have an attitude of gratitude. Relationship advice, like who you hang around with, man, that's who you're going to become. Maybe you have some financial advice, technology advice. Like, I'm sure your parents gave you some technology advice. No. But technology is a really powerful tool. It can also be really harmful. And it can make you feel like you're close to a lot of people and you're not close to any of them. So maybe you have some thoughts around that. Maybe you have some health advice or some spiritual advice. I speak to a lot of different groups. Sometimes it's to a church. Sometimes it's to a secular group or, a business. And I just tell them, if you're a person of faith, you definitely want to have some spiritual advice in this section of the letter to try to guide them in that way. My dad's letter was filled with spiritual advice. I knew exactly what he thought about God and the Bible, and he had different Bible verses in there. And as you're working on this advice section, you might get to a point where you say, Blake, I kind of feel like a hypocrite sharing some of this. Like, it's really good advice, but I haven't always, done the best. And that's what you tell them with humility. Like, don't not share good advice. You just say, hey, I haven't always done the best at living out this advice, but when I have, my life has been better. And then you're going to come to the closing paragraph. And in the closing paragraph, you're really just rewriting the intro section of the letter. You're going to answer this question. Hey, what are your hopes for the relationship going forward? What do you want to be true? And for some of you, this is going to be really hard to write because what you hope is true in the future is not true today. And you're not 100% sure that what you hope for is what they hope for. So you're going to be taking a little bit of a risk and you're going to be nervous. But hey, this is what we do. This is what we do for the people we love. We take some risks. And then you're going to come to the last line. Everybody's going to have a last line. My dad's last line was the most impactful line of the letter. It's the one I thought about more than any other. So I call it the legacy line. So if there's one line that you'd want them to remember, what would it be? This could be something that they've heard you say before, something your dad or your mom said to you, something that you've already stated in the letter. Just maybe you're just reminding them how much you love them. Don't overthink this. Like, spend a moment thinking on it, but whatever you come up with is going to be good. Like nobody on this call is going to have a bad last line of their letter. I can assure you of that. And then giving the letter. And so as I'm talking about how to give this letter, because we are coming up to the end of our time here today, I do want to encourage everyone that's on the call to do our feedback form really quick. We love to get some feedback on our presentations, and we'll share this with Doug and Keith as well. But as you maybe picked up on, I'm going to encourage you to give this letter as soon as possible. I don't know what situation they're currently in or what they're about to be in, but I can guarantee you they're going to be better off with this letter in their life. When would you have rather bought Apple stock, 30 years ago or yesterday? Like either way, you'd own Apple stock, right? No, if you'd bought it 30 years ago, it'd be worth more.
30 years ago. 30 years ago.
Yeah, right. Doug knows. And so let's let this letter start working in their life and start compounding. Now, here's the thing. I don't know what Apple stock is going to be worth a year from now or 5 years from now, but I do know how much this letter will be worth. Like there's coming a day where this letter will be absolutely cherished. And maybe it's the day you give it to them. Maybe it's a month later. And it will definitely happen the day you die because they know that there's nothing else coming. Okay. Well, that kind of concludes our workshop. Does anybody have any questions? You can definitely ask them in the chat. I like Keith's butt has such a powerful adjective. Hey, Doug, do you have any questions or thoughts or anything that you want to close this down with, or I can just close this down?
Yeah, Blake, thanks for sharing your heart. I have heard this story a few times now, and I just love every moment of it. And I think the thing that we're excited about is for each of our friends to be able to make an impact, a legacy impact. And whether you write that letter this year or you write this letter 10 years from now, we're cheering you on. And if you have some questions on how-tos or you have some concerns, Blake's a great guy to reach out to. I can tell you Keith's a great guy to reach out to. Keith has wrote volumes to his kids. And of course, you can reach out to me too. The main thing is this is a gift to your loved ones, and we're excited to be a part of it. So thank you, Blake. This was incredible.
All right. Well, thank you, Doug and Keith, for partnering with us on this mission. You're helping us get closer to 1 million letters. And so I appreciate you on that. And so everyone on the call, like you're in the mission now. And so I want to thank you for being a part of the mission. Everyone on this call, you have what it takes to finish this letter. I've seen some people just like you'd think, man, this person can barely, like their kids speak English, and this guy couldn't even speak English hardly, but he figured out a way to get the letter done. And so I'm like, okay, if that guy can do it, you can do it. And let me say this, there's, as we're on this mission for 1 million, like every single one of those matter. Like your letter matters, your family matters. And there's people that have not even been born yet in your family that will be impacted by this letter that you're writing. I think about my dad 22 years ago. I don't think he was probably thinking about his grandchildren. I was 19 years old. But every single day, my children, my dad's grandchildren, are impacted by the letter that he wrote. Now, they could not tell you a single word that's in that letter. But every single day, they get a better dad because of my dad's letter, me. And so today's been about you, but also I just want to thank you all because you're helping me to honor my dad and honor his legacy. So thank you all.